Assalamu alaikum everybody and welcome to another episode of TSF Reviews. Today we're talking about Jupiter's Legacy.
Yes, we are.
My God, Jupiter's Legacy.
Well,
let's talk about the show. And before we get into a deeper discussion, let's talk about some of the good things the show did. Right? Let me bring up one good thing the show did. It came out all at once. One of the good things the show did was that it all dropped at the same time, which is a nice change of pace from the last few shows we had to watch, namely being Invincible, Falcon the Winter Soldier, WandaVision.
The weekly schedule. It was, I mean, it was a throwback to classic TV, but at the same time, I feel binge culture has ruined us by giving it us all at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah, but that was nice.
So Netflix, thank you so much for dropping this entire season in one go. Something else that I actually liked about the show is that the costumes for all the characters that you can see, despite being very comic accurate, seemed like they could work. That's just my opinion. They're like very comic booky. I have gripes with the costumes, don't get me wrong, right? But I have to applaud where applause is due. Like, they do look like superhero costumes. Say whatever you want. Hate them or love them, they do look like superhero costumes.
They do. And they actually look like they were made on Earth. They're not like, I mean, you know what I mean, right? They're not weird.
Yeah.
They look functional. There is function to that. We'll get to that, I mean, eventually. But one thing I particularly liked about the costumes was the Utopians did the detailing.
Yep.
Like, as you go on, you understand what that detailing is. Okay, at first it just felt like random creases, but then when you finally figure it out, you're just like, oh. And I have to applaud the costume department over there, because that must have taken some effort to make. But anyways, moving on.
I agree. Another good thing that I just love, and then I'll let you take the stage for a bit and talk about a couple of things you like, is I love Lady Liberty. There's no hiding it. I love this woman. Her, not just her because she's cute and all, which she is, but it's also because her character went through such a nice development throughout the entire show, in my opinion. I feel like she was the best written character in the entire show. I feel like she was the best written because she went through the wave of the thing by the end of it. But yeah, that's stuff that I have to say. Mubarak, do you have any points?
I agree with you that she was well written. There was it's like, as the timeline, I'm going to call it, because obviously this show jumps back from the 1920s to modern day 2000 something, whatever it is. There is, like, you can feel that there is development, and now she's a mother to two superpowered children, which is no small feat. So yeah, there is quite good development over there. I liked Utopian's character development as well. Like, there's one thing I have an issue with, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Overall, if you're going to talk about the show, I actually did like this show, despite people having mixed reviews. It was not something that you'd like immediately. Sort of an acquired taste. Okay, especially the beginning. It did not. The pilot was not piloty. Like, further on, you'd have a flow, but then the pilot itself, it felt very disconnected from the rest of the season. Well, at least that's how I see it. What about you?
No, I agree with you on that. The pilot was much like the rest of the show, all over the place, right? Obviously, it's not like they decided to go to the past in episode 2. They were exploring that, oh, this is what they are now and this is what they were in the past, and telling that parallel story from episode 1. And it was a little hard to digest in episode 1, but like, as you said, acquired taste. As we went along, we got used to it. Though I have complaints about it, we'll get to that.
What do you give this overall as a season?
Like, overall, Overall, the season, I have to say it's a 6.5. And my entire review I want to discuss these things in detail, obviously, but like my two words for this entire series is wasted potential.
Hmm.
Right? 6.5 out of 10 wasted potential, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I have this as a 7.5, but I agree 100% about wasted potential. There's like so much they could have done. I mean, I think they took the big risk by going with that uh, flashback to modern day, like that big divide in between.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have gone flashback, but then have this somewhere in the 1960s, 70s, somewhere where the Union was still young, rather than have them really old. Well, you know, in modern times with big children and all that, all grown up children. Like they could have been beginning of their mid careers, you could say. I'd go with mid career rather than end career, which it now seems with the white hair and all that. Yeah.
Speaking of white
um
hair, Utopian looks badass with the beard and the hair.
he does. In
Even in
fact,
the
they all
comics.
do. They
Yeah, they
they
do.
all look quite graceful with their um
In their
older
old age,
selves. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
compared to how they looked when
Fine
they were
wine.
younger, which we
Yeah,
saw in
fine
the
wine.
finale. Yes, fine wine, exactly. I agree with that. Um, Here's the let's start. Let me just mention a couple of things that I had some problems with, and you can jump in whenever you
All
feel
right.
like it, and we can discuss it.
Okay.
So, number one is that this show, at the by the end of episode one and the start of episode two, asked all the right questions, right? Right? It like the question regarding the superhero code we've come to know from comic books like Superman and Batman, specifically Batman, who people associate with the code the most, and
Yeah.
it was asking all the right questions regarding that code. Right? Episode two's first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes was all focused on that. But then we didn't hear anything else about this discussion until episode seven. Like, it was gone.
I I like how you kept track.
Right?
I did not keep track of
And
where it stopped, but thank you for that.
like every episode I was watching, I'm like, why aren't they talking about this? Why aren't they talking about that?
Mm,
Right? So like towards the end of episode
yeah.
six, and then towards the episode seven, they started getting back on track and started discussing the real things. Right? Like
Yeah.
we're obviously talking about spoilers, but like Black Star died in episode one. Black Star died in episode one, and then
Yeah.
episode two they talked about the body for a bit, and then episode six they found out that who was responsible for the body, and then episodes two, three, four, and five. Well, specifically three, four, and five did not talk about Black Star at all, right? And then it's just like, okay, what's the point here, right? Like,
Yeah. I get what you mean. I understand.
right? So like you're telling, I understand you're telling the story, right? So like the story of Hutch, the story of Chloe, and all of these people, right? These quite frankly, very interesting characters, right? I honestly believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I believe Hutch is a very, very cool villain.
He is, and I would not classify him directly as a villain.
Anti-hero.
I would not even put him in anti-hero.
Oh,
I would
really?
put him. I would put him. Is anti-villain a word? Is that a thing?
It is now. You heard it here
It
first,
is now.
guys.
Okay. No, because see, anti-hero implies that he still wants to do good, but he's just looking out for his own survival, his friend's survival. That's he's not doing evil because he wants to be evil. He's doing evil. I'm not going to call it evil. In fact, it's just he's doing heists. Are heists evil? Am I the bad guy here now? Thinking about if heists are not evil. No, I don't know.
If
Moving on.
heists if
Yeah,
heists
but
are evil, if heists are evil, we need to reconsider the entire premise of Endgame.
Oh, okay.
Podcast episode coming up.
Yeah, but no, seriously. Once you look at it, he's not evil. Evil,
Hmm.
not like another certain character,
Yeah.
but and then when you look at it towards the end, his evilness makes sense from what he has been led to believe and what we've all been led to believe, basically, with Skyfox being the bad guy. But nope, sudden U-turn there. In fact, it is someone else whose name escapes me. Brainwave. Sorry. Yeah, and this guy, yeah. The only reason I remember Brainwave was because of that wave on
Yeah,
his chest.
yeah. I
Yeah.
want to.
But yeah, and then that, yeah.
I want to
Go
talk
on.
about that. No, but you finish. I'll bring it up after.
No, but then you see Hutch's development stems from that
Yep.
particular belief that he's been led to believe in his entire life, and he grew up with that. Obviously, it's traumatizing, and it's cast him aside. That's why he's doing these crimes. But yeah, that one was beautiful development as well. One thing that distracted me about Hutch, and I have to, this is a shameless confession, he reminded me of Zac
You
Efron
told
the
me
entire time.
this. You
I
told me
did.
this, and I couldn't unsee it.
Yeah, and it's like, look at his face. He looks like Zac Efron, and that distracted me a little bit, but not from the story entirely, but just like his face. Yeah, but yeah, there were also some other good characters in here. Chloe's was interesting. Brandon's lost potential.
Very much
Uh,
so. I
like
agree.
I thought it was going to be very Brandon centered in the very first episode. With him making the difficult
Yeah.
decision of breaking the code, which we will get to. But like
Then
they benched him.
that's the thing, right? They benched him, and then they didn't talk about
Yeah,
that discussion for 5 episodes.
yeah.
Right? And then it
Sadly,
was over. It was gone. 5 episodes. For 5 episodes, they didn't talk about it.
they forgot.
Yeah. And
Yeah, yeah.
you told me this just before we started the podcast, and I'd like to bring this up. You told me just before we started that you learned that the entire first season of this show was based off the first 2 issues of the comic. Like
Two issues.
just the first 2 issues. And if I'm being very honest, it shows, right? Because it's very dragged, very slow in a lot of places,
Yes,
right? And the story has a hard time keeping track of itself,
that is true.
right? Um, if I could talk about some gripes that I had with the show, first of all, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Brainwaves, brainwave, the brainwave twist came out of nowhere. Like he was suspicious from the start. I won't lie
Okay,
about that.
okay, okay, okay. Suspicious from the start. Yeah.
Right?
But when you say nowhere, I would not say exactly nowhere, but it felt like nowhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Go on.
It felt like nowhere because you sprinkle some things around, right? Like little hints that okay, this guy might be evil, but it seems all nonchalant and okay, right? And then people are like shocked. Oh my god, it all makes sense. But he didn't have that much interaction with anybody for that to be relevant, right? He didn't have
No.
enough interaction with Brandon. He didn't have enough interaction with Utopian for that ending to
Yeah.
be relevant.
For that ending to be relevant. Also, you said that, yeah, his character development, it did not show that he was gonna go towards this way, right? But if you're gonna say that it didn't make sense, like, wait, no, wait. So for it to make sense, there had to be that interaction, but there was not. But it was not out of nowhere, I would say.
No, like I agree. It wasn't like out of when I say out
Yeah.
of nowhere, I mean like it didn't seem like it was the right time for this reveal.
Okay. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so like
I'll go with that.
it's like you could have waited another season to do this, right? Or at least a few episodes into the next season because you didn't lay out enough breadcrumbs for this.
Exactly.
Okay? And by breadcrumbs, I don't mean that the audience needs to know that this is happening, right? The character himself doesn't know what's going on when he reveals it in the end because he's only had 3 interactions with these characters. Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I am the bad guy. And it's like, okay.
What I don't understand is how friction between brothers randomly turned into this.
Exactly. I mean, like, okay, so you could argue that everything we saw in the past was just like a precursor to all of this, right?
Okay.
But then it's been 70, 80, 90 years, right? Based on the show, I'm going to assume it's before pandemic 2019, so it's been 90 years.
All right.
It's been 90 years, and in 90 years, you didn't make a move until now.
And why now?
Exactly. Why, of all things, now? Why did you wait? Like, okay, yeah, wait till he bangs Lady Liberty, right? Has kids, and the kids become 20 something, and then I'll make my move. Yes, the
Yeah,
long
that felt
con,
weird.
right? It's just like, no, right? You could have done this at any time, okay? And an argument can be made that he tried to do it with this Skyfox incident, which, by the way, I wish we actually saw.
I wish we did. I actually did. I mean, that was the one thing I was looking forward to. I thought there would be some hint of that. Like, okay, in that last psychic fight between Brainwave and Skyfox, I thought they would actually show us a flashback and, you know,
Of what
monologue,
happened,
like, you
yeah.
did this to me, and then we'd go get that flashback, right? But no, that didn't happen. Also, if he was behind this the entire time, why would he even go into Black Star's mind, the fake one? Like, what
Exactly.
was the point of that?
Yeah,
Like, why
exactly.
would you go into a collapsing cave when you know that you're the one who did it in the first place?
That's what I'm
That
saying.
didn't make sense. Like,
The entire show is pretty confused with what it wants to do. Okay?
yeah,
Yes, you want to establish Brainwave as the villain, right? You want to do all of that, but his steps in villainy make zero sense,
it's zero. Yeah,
right? They like
yeah.
that pissed me off. Like when I finished the season, that's the thing that pissed me off the most. That Brainwave
Mm,
had the potential to be such a good villain, and you didn't explore that enough.
they did not.
Right? You could have hidden it from us, like how Asad likes to say about the Flash, like how the Reverse Flash should have been pulling the strings from behind the entire time, and we shouldn't have found out until much later, like a couple of seasons later about Reverse Flash. I feel like that should have been the
Yeah,
approach here as well, right? Brainwave should have been pulling the strings behind, and we wouldn't find out till Volume 2 or Volume 3, right? And
that would have made sense. Yeah.
yeah, that would have had the most impact, in my opinion, right? Like then it would feel like, oh yes, and we could explore Brainwave's history with the Union a bit more that way,
Mm.
right? Like I want to know where Blueport went.
Also, yeah, like, give us the Union. I mean, the only time they showed us the Union as a whole was when they got their powers. Okay, they finally cleared the trial of the island. Let's call it that. And they're descending from the heavens, all of them. And then, like, that one tiny banter when they were making their Hall of
All
Justice.
the
Also,
Justice
speaking of which, does everything have to be a Justice League, the team knockoff? Okay. We have this in The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
We have this in Invincible.
Invincible.
We have this in The Tick on Amazon Prime. We have a version of this in correct me if I'm wrong. Umbrella Academy. It feels like a stretch, but I'm gonna bring that in here. Like, because the team of 7 different powered people, that's a long stretch. But the other ones I talked about, I would say that, knock off Justice League over there. Like, what is that? Is everyone doing that now?
Um,
It's kind of weird at the same time.
I mean, I agree with
It's
you,
like,
but I can make an argument that the Union is not so much like the Justice League, as much as say Invincible's Guardians of the Globe were, or the 7 were in The Boys.
see, I feel those were like parodies of Justice League, whereas this tried to be the Justice League, but they're like, no, we got to change it, copyright and all that. So they just changed. They're like, let's give them all flight and let's give them all this and stuff like that. But it feels like now everything. It's just I blame the Snyder Cut. That hashtag for the last how many years we've been doing that has infiltrated our minds.
Sure, I guess.
Also, one minor gripe as well. Their costumes. So they just get their costumes and their costumes are like that?
Yeah, I agree with you
What?
on that. I agree with you on that because they just came out of the island with the costumes. Like
What was that?
unless in Jupiter when they were on Jupiter, right? They just took a seamstress class real quick, and like quickly sewed their costumes and came out.
Like they do such a fantastic job with the costumes visually, like for, showing us the audience, and then the origin story of that, like, nope, we got it. We went through the thingy
Uh,
and we got it.
oh my
It was
god,
there.
I have so many more points to say, and I feel
Go
like this
on.
is going to be a really long discussion now. But like,
No, go on. It's worth it.
who gave them their names?
I was getting to that.
Where did
Go
they
on.
get their names? Like, okay, so I don't know if you know the names of all the original Union members, because I know the
Uh,
name of all seven of them.
oh, you go on with this
All
then.
right, so like Brainwave, Utopian, Lady Liberty, The Flare, Skyfox, and Blue Bolt. There's six of them actually.
Yeah, 6 of them.
Right. So there you go. Who named him Brainwave, Utopian, Lady Liberty, The Flare, Blue Bolt, and Skyfox?
Okay. Brainwave makes sense
Yes, it does.
because is psychic based.
Sure.
Also, while we're getting into that, how did they know what powers they would get on the island? Like, were they given a pamphlet? Like, these are your powers. Use them well.
Here's the thing. Fitz talks about this in the last episode, in the flashback, that everybody got superhuman strength, superhuman speed, and the ability to fly.
Yes.
All three of them got that. But everybody else also got one unique power to themselves.
Yeah.
Except Blue Bolt.
Yeah, he
got no speed, no superhuman speed, no superhuman strength, and no flight. He only got the rod.
I don't know what to say about that.
He's the Batman.
No, but isn't Skyfox the Batman? Is that not what they were trying to show us the whole time?
No, I don't know about that. I mean, sure, but like the thing is that Blue Bolt is the only one who technically doesn't have any powers.
One.
All right. So like Blue Bolt kind of has the he kind of feels like Batman because he's the only one who doesn't have powers, according to what was said by Fitz. Right? Since we never actually see him in action, what's up with that? Right? We don't know for sure what the scene is. And speaking of the power rod, while we're on that subject of the power rod, how did Hutch get it? What's the story there?
And Hutch says it only works for him. When did they get change of ownership? What happened with, like, I would assume that if Blue Bolt died, the thing would not just say like, okay, I need a new owner or something like that. There had to be some way of Skyfox stealing that, ownership in some way. I don't know. It felt like this last bit was particularly rushed, power-wise and costume-wise, and a lot of things that they could have explained, but they just chose not to. They're just like, we just leave it to the audience, let them decide.
The truth is, the flashback thing bugged me a lot, right? And it bugged me so much, mainly because it wasn't handled well. The flashback thing, right? Like we've seen how it was handled in Arrow, where you flash back to certain points, right? It was never random. It was never random.
Key moments, yes. Right? It was always key moments. He had to learn a lesson, and it took him back there. In this, they're just like flashback here, just everywhere.
Unrelated, right? I would appreciate the more if the approach was more Arrow-centric, right? Maybe the thing they were talking about in the episode, they take us back to a time where they were the Union and had to deal with something similar.
Yes.
Right? Instead of, I could have lived without that entire backstory. Right? That entire backstory over the 8 episodes, like, I could have honestly lived without it. Right? I wanted to see more superheroing. I wanted to see more of that because that's what the show looks like it promises me. But then it didn't. It gave me more soap opera.
And they gave you, actually, when you said that they asked the right questions, they gave you stuff to think about, like ethicalities, moralities of the code and stuff like that. Let's talk about that for a while.
Sure.
The code that Utopian so firmly sticks to is flawed. So much of his stuff, like all this drama could have been avoided if they just went off code for a bit. While they're learning, they just like kill a few bad guys here and there, and then you won't have this problem at all. Just they're gone.
Okay,
finished.
So the discussion of the code. So basically, the my opinion on this is that the code basically evolved from the need to not have to create new villains every time for comic books. Okay, like
That actually makes sense.
I'm not joking on that, right? So
Story wise, like writer wise, that makes sense. Like
right, so
just
like
we can.
imagine killing the Joker and then the Riddler and then Two Face and then be like, okay, now what do we do? The Penguin. Okay, now what? After you get rid of all of Batman's rogue gallery, who do you have left? Because like it's basically just a way to avoid creating villains. So this is a way for them to recycle villains. Essentially, this is speaking in terms of comic books. Okay,
I understand that
right?
100%. Yes.
So as far as the code goes, it makes sense from that perspective, right? So like you need to have that approach. But now, if someone like Utopian, right, in a realistic world where we go around start killing all the villains, that every villain that pops up, we break their heads open, right? The after the first few times, yeah, public will be like, yes, you killed the villain, we're safe, we don't have to worry about them anymore. But after the first few times, wouldn't you be scared?
Yeah, like you can't commit a tiny crime, otherwise like Utopian's gonna come and break your neck.
Exactly.
Like illegal parking, break his neck.
That's
like any like and eventually even the tiniest crimes would attract their attention.
Exactly, because there'd be nothing else left.
I do not know how accurate this is, but from my friend living in Japan, they say that over there, because there's almost no crime, like the police will crack down on even the tiniest things now because there is no more crime left for, like regular crime to deal with. I don't know the accuracy of this, like if this is 100% accurate, but this is what I've been told by a friend over there.
I understand that,
Yeah.
right? So that is basically
that would happen here.
That is basically what would happen, right? So let's say you get rid of all the Jokers and the Lex Luthers and everything. Who do you have left? Now you're afraid, right? Oh, I ripped the tag off underneath my bed. Do not rip under penalty of law. I ripped it off. Utopian bursts through your window, snaps your neck.
That would be like the worst way to die, though. Like at the funeral, how do they explain that?
I mean, like the code to some extent makes sense. The code exists not just for the comic book writers, but it also, in a way, exists so that the heroes can keep their jobs.
All right.
Take it. They don't have to taste the first blood of killing somebody and then, wanting to kill more people. But they also end up putting everybody else in danger. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to the code, if I'm being very honest.
Yeah, true.
Okay. There obviously, if you ask me, there are villains who would need to die. Blackstar, the clone of Blackstar, or the Blackstar in general, should die. He's that powerful. I mean, anybody who's that powerful, where all of your strongest heroes are having a hard time taking him out.
Yep.
You need to put that bitch in the ground.
Yep.
Right.
100%.
There's no solution. Like if Darkseid comes down on the Justice League, I don't expect anybody to put Darkseid in a prison.
Yeah, because would a prison hold that powerful a being?
Exactly.
Would it be justice? No, he would just come back. He'd break out, and then he'd come back to wreak some havoc. Like no. For smaller villains, yeah, sure, there is a chance of rehabilitation for them, like his psychologist, Utopian. Yeah, that felt like there was a there was a silver lining to that, putting him in prison, making him repent. I'm going to say he's doing a good thing, but then even now we don't know what his ulterior motives might be. If he's manipulating Utopian in a way, we don't know that yet, still too early to tell. But it felt like he could be turned back to the light side in a way.
I just feel like people like Brainwave.
Yeah.
Right. They're villains out of pettiness, not out of actually an actual need to be a villain. Right. So they can be rehabilitated easily. Right. But then there's people like Blackstar who are literally out there just to get the rocks off.
Just for the kill. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. He killed Tectonic. He killed I don't remember the names of the other heroes he killed, but like he killed those heroes, and
Yeah.
there's no that about it, if and or but about it. You need to put him in the ground. They asked the right questions by the end. I mean, they skipped over 5 episodes of asking the right questions, but they asked the right questions. Like, how often can we be expected to die, right? Just and not do anything about it. Look at Ghost Beam. Poor girl. She she died because she just wanted to make sure that she didn't go against the code, and that made
Yep.
Lady Liberty question everything, right? And oh, let me talk about one other thing about Utopian that I kind of like and I hate. Like because it's a good character trait, and I hate because if this was somebody else, I'd punch them. But he cannot separate, and this is a theme in the entire show. He cannot separate being Utopian from being Sheldon, Sheldon Sampson,
True.
right?
100%.
Right. He has never been able to separate it, not in the show, not ever. Take it as far as the show is concerned, the 8 episodes, because he does not remember anybody by name, only their superhero names.
I see what you mean by that, but I mean, I forgot about that tiny detail that he didn't know the real names, but um yeah, like from the beginning, from the peak of his sanity, his insanity, in fact, from that moment, it's like he blurred the lines himself.
Yep, he
And
did.
even though he is going to weekly counseling sessions, he still does not make that distinction. He expects himself to be in character the whole time, and he
Exactly.
expects his family, he expects everyone to follow that particular uh, itch of his.
Exactly. So like when it clicked, the first time it clicked for me, and then I was like, what is wrong here? And then it clicked for me a second time. So like, let me explain. When he was talking to Chloe at Chloe's apartment, right?
Yeah.
And after the whole, Black Star death, and they were talking about the funeral and everything about that. He was talking to Chloe, and Chloe mentioned him by name, Ben, right? Okay, Ben's funeral. Utopian immediately goes, "Who's Ben?" And I'm like, I just stopped. I got taken aback right away, immediately at that scene. Such a tiny scene, right? Like even you said you didn't pick that up, and I picked it up immediately, right? Okay, you're on a team with this guy. He died in battle, and you don't know his real name. Your son is his daughter, is his twin daughter's godfather, and you don't know his real name, right? Fine, okay. I let it slide at the time. Like, okay, fine, TK. Maybe he genuinely didn't know. Maybe and it could be 100 other reasons. Maybe he has so many other names in his head. So many people named Ben, right? So I let it slide in episode 3. In episode 6, when Ghost Beam died, and Lady Liberty told him that I forgot the girl's name, but like when he said, "Okay, do you know about her? I met her on patrol." Now she has somewhat of a unique name, which is why I can't remember it. Right? It's like something you don't normally hear. But he doesn't remember who it is.
Can't remember it either.
Yeah, he asks, "Okay, who's she?" And then Lady Liberty has to
Yeah,
say
I
Ghost Beam, and then he remembers all of it. Then he remembers, oh, nice girl, Chloe's friend, this and that.
I chalk that up to. Yeah. No, I chalked that part up because see, I missed it because I assumed that this was for us, the audience, because like if that name came up, I would just be like, who? Yeah, I thought it was that, but then your point actually makes sense that now that I see it, that because I knew that he wasn't able to separate, but now I see how bad it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was pretty bad. Like that really clicked for me at that moment. I'm like, this is something
Mm.
that I love as a writing choice. I hate it as like not. I love that about Utopian's character. I love that as a writing choice. But if Utopian was in front of me like this and he did something like this right now, I'd punch him in the face.
I
Right?
understand that
Right.
100%. Yep.
So like, I'm in a team with like 11 people right now. Right. If all of you start going by your nicknames, I should at least know what your real names are.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, it just really pissed me off. Right. And the show has so much potential to tell the right stories.
Okay. Okay, go on.
But
Because I have something to add on to this.
right,
But you go on first.
It has so much potential to tell the right stories, but it was so focused on being slow and character driven. Character driven stories are great. I love character driven stories. But there is a fine line between character driven and mundanely slow. Right? This was so mundanely slow that I could tell you were stretching, like just to make those 8 hours, 8 episodes.
Okay, so here I will interject. Because it was only 2 issues, I understand, like, now that I know that it's 2 issues, now I understand why they had to add all this slow filler. But then I don't understand why they would only choose the first 2 issues in that case. I have not read the comic, so I have no idea how many issues there are. But if this was the problem of it being slow, why would they even go with just the first 2 issues? Why not have the first 2 issues be one arc, and then you could, do another arc, like towards the, like, have half, half the season do this and then half the season do that. That would have made a little more sense if you were going to go this direction. But they just chose 2 issues, and they're just like, you know what, 8 hours, make it happen.
Let me just to add to this conversation, I'm just going to quickly look up how many issues of Jupiter's Legacy there are, and we can talk about what all they could have done. Okay, no, it's fine. So here's the thing: they only have 10 issues.
Okay, if they're going with 2 issues per season, are they expecting to pull this 5 seasons? I know for a fact that there is a comic before this called Jupiter's Circle. That much I know of. But if this was the case, 10 issues, and I think the show runners were a little too excited, too optimistic about this. Like, you know what? We got 5 seasons worth of content. Let's just split them 2 issues at a time.
Oh my, this is interesting.
Yeah?
This is pretty interesting. So it's still running, apparently. So
how recent is this?
2013, but it says 2013 to present.
And they only came out with 10 issues? What are they doing this yearly?
Apparently. And Jupiter's Circle is a spin-off of the show, right? It has 6 issues.
Is this a prequel or a sequel?
It's
failed to read that.
It says it's a spin-off. I'm not sure if it's a sequel or it's a...
Okay. I only know... Is there another spin-off, or is it just...
Jupiter's Circle and this? I feel like Jupiter's Circle might be a prequel, and I feel like they might have told the story of Jupiter's Circle and the first 2 issues together to kind of fill that slot.
Maybe.
All right, there you go. Jupiter's Circle establishes the original 6 heroes.
Okay.
Okay.
In that case, they took elements of it. They did not take the whole comic.
Yes, and here's the thing. The thing I find the most interesting that I think we can look into forward to in season 2 that might come into play is that the cover of the first issue is Chloe and Jason Hutch.
Which one is Jason? Okay, Hutch.
That they're on the cover of the first issue. So I think that those 2 people are meant to be the main focus of the entire show. Hence the focus on their lives and their
Jupiter's
episodes.
legacy. I would assume that because of the legacy of their parents.
I assume. I don't know. Let's find out.
Very Romeo and Juliet.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to a season 2. I'm not even going to pretend
I am.
Not.
Yes, I am definitely looking forward to a season 2. One thing I'd like to make a note of is the creator of the comic, Mark Millar.
Mm-hmm.
His stories and his franchises have so much good potential. We've seen this in Kick-Ass. We've seen this in Kingsman.
Yep.
We've seen this in Wanted. Like, they're good adaptations, right? I feel that this particular show, they kind of got overexcited because, well, this is the first time it's a show. They're usually movies. Had this been a movie, it would not have particularly made sense unless they were trying to aim for 10 movies. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know.
Like, this was a risk. This was a risk for his franchises, which have like really good potential, and we've got really good stuff out of it. It's just I feel that this one was one risk they took.
Right. Right? It makes sense. That definitely makes sense. But like, I don't know. The show did feel like it took a risk, but like I feel like it could have taken that risk while also taking a few better choices.
I agreed, 100%.
Right. So I was just reading the synopsis of the first two issues, and you're right. The first two issues are exactly what has been taken into consideration. And I thought Jupiter's Circle might have been a prequel, but no. The first
It's not.
issue, the first issue covers the entire journey to the island.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that is interesting. I
That
don't
is.
know. I don't know what to make of that. Um, it says right here, okay, that they become the original six heroes. They meet President Barack Obama, and they this is old. Like this is clearly a product of the time, but like they talk about their children, and Chloe's not happy about it, and Chloe ends up losing a celebrity endorsement deal and ends up getting overdosed, which is what happened by
Which
episode
happens
4.
in. Yeah.
Okay, this is everything that was covered in episode 4. Um, they change something. Brandon gets drunk and does something bad, which makes him get benched. But in the show, they made it so that he killed Black Star
Hero's
instead.
Dilemma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So there's nothing
Makes
here
sense.
about a Black Star, right? Which explains why that whole the whole Black Star thing feels a bit, wonky.
Can you see if Mark Millar is actually on this production team? Is that
Mark Miller,
no? I
yeah,
mean, like he's creator of the comic, but is he uh, giving input with the production team?
yeah, he's the right. With the production team of the show.
Yeah, the production of the show, not the comic.
Right.
The comic, I know
Let
it's him.
me. I can take a look at that. I think he did though. I think he's the. Oh, he is the executive producer. I read that the other day. Yeah, he is the executive producer of the show.
In that case, that feels like just a title. He could have had a little more input. He could have tweaked it out because obviously, if you create something like if you create a D&D campaign in your head, I cannot fully envision it. So I would need
Exactly.
your input to portray that. Like I feel that they could have taken a little more input from him while doing this. Like of course they have to do creative liberties and all that. They have to tweak it to make it show format. But then I feel like a little more elements from him would have been nicer.
True. Although he is credited as executive producer, so
That's a
uh,
fake title. Simpsons talked about it. They said it's a fake title.
that wasn't Simpsons, it's Futurama.
They've done it in Simpsons as well, I believe.
Have they? I just remember the Futurama one. What's executive mean? It's just an addition to the title that makes it look like it's important. And then it was executive producer Matt Groening.
And then it probably was Futurama because Matt Groening is attached to Simpsons, so that's what I may have confused it.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you have anything else to say,
And the only thing left to say is that I hope season 2 is better. I hope they.
Me too.
I hope they don't do the whole story drag thing. I mean, I get you need to fill in creative liberties and all that, but I came into Jupiter's Legacy like this is one of the covers of the show on Netflix. Okay?
Yeah.
When you see this, you expect to go into a show with at least a little bit of superheroing in it, right?
Yep.
And there was almost none in the entire show. Like the first
They
episode
just had in
had
the
it,
first episode, yeah, and then
And-
after that, just
yeah, and then just the last two episodes after that, right? So like, I expect just a little bit of superheroing throughout the show, right? Just not to the point where it's like in your face, childish superheroing. Just a little bit, man. Like, just want to see them in
Yeah.
action,
in action. Yes.
right? So yeah, and I hope we explore more of the backstory between the Union in the past, the original Union.
Yeah.
I really want to know what happens to Blue Bolt. I might actually look it up after this review ends. I want to know what happens.
I mean, you could read the 10 issues. I'm gonna if once the show gets canceled, then I will look into it. But before that, I will
We're
not.
at least 2 years away from getting a second season. It took them 2 years to make the show.
Ooh. I mean, pandemic wise, you have to understand that
They
it's because
started
of
in
the pandemic.
2019. They started pre-production in 2018. They started filming in 2019.
Pandemic. Let's just go with pandemic.
Sure. Sure. They didn't cast the final actress until 2020 December, but okay.
Wow.
Yeah. They didn't cast, like they were filming from 2019, but they didn't cast Anna Akana as, what was her name? Raiko? Yeah, the Pokemon. They didn't cast her.
I was gonna say that. Like, what is that?
Raiko means thunder.
It's like when I heard the first time, I'm like, that's a Pokemon, right?
It is. So like Anna Akana got cast in 2020, late 2020. I'm thinking it was somewhere between August and December, where she got cast as her in her role. Right now, she's only in like 2 episodes or 1 episode. But
2 episodes, I believe. One, like with the katanas in Japan, and then when she comes to America.
Right.
Yeah.
So like she's in those 2 episodes, right? So like they didn't cast her until August or between August and December of 2020, and then they did reshoots in January of 2021.
Okay.
So
there you go. Rocky production.
Yes, it definitely has been
rocky production.
Right. So I'm not expecting a season 2 to get greenlit or come out for 2 years, because that's kind of how long we have to wait for Umbrella Academy as well. Right.
Yeah.
Umbrella Academy came out last year. We're not getting it this year, and we definitely won't. We'll definitely get it early next year, right? So we're gonna get something like that. We're not gonna get Jupiter's Legacy next year. We might get it the year after.
The year after. All right. Until then, we will be hopeful for season 2.
Yep.
Any final words?
Nope. I just hope that season 2 comes out. I just hope it comes out. Actually, I really want to see season 2. That's pretty much it on my side. I really want to see
season 2. Same. I would like to see more of Mark Millar's franchises translated onto a. I mean, I guess a show format would work, but I would expect them to do a little better job at this.
Yep.
Because he has real potential.
He does.
Like, imagine if we had Kingsman as a TV show.
Oh, that'd be
I mean,
great.
the movie was the first movie was great. Second one, but as a TV show, this would be epic.
It would be. You know that when they made the TV show, they made the movie about the origins of the Kingsman. That should have been a show.
The movie that's coming out this year.
Yeah, that should have been a show.
The Kingsman.
The Kingsman should have been.
I don't know if we need that. It should have been a show. Yes, would have worked nicely. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you have any thoughts, anything you'd like to say, please feel free to leave it in the comments.
Yep, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and really support us. We've had a lot of support from you guys recently, and we'd love to see more.
We would love to see more. Hit that bell icon too,
Yes, definitely. Hit that bell icon. Get the videos as soon as they come out.
Like hit it so hard, like how Brandon smashed Black Star's head, and just hit it like that.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for watching. See you all next time.
All right.